This is a new beginning, it's a new start, and I think it's great for our franchise, it's great for our fans, and we're excited to see who can join us and help us as we continue to move forward and continue to be a great standard in the WNBA.
The Indiana Fever are at a crossroads. Kelly Koff has returned. Caitlin Clark is lighting up the league, but coaching struggles and looming free agency decisions have cast a shadow over their future. Will the Fever build a championship-caliber team around Clark, or will they crumble under the pressure? Stick around as we dive into the key factors shaping the Fever's future and the challenges they must overcome. The Fever's decision to bring back Kelly Koff to run the franchise signals a new chapter for the team. But for those familiar with the Fever's history, Koff is not just any executive. She was at the helm during their most successful years. Under Koff's leadership, the Fever reached the WNBA Finals multiple times, cementing themselves as one of the top franchises in the league. Now with the team struggling to find consistency, despite having a star like Caitlin Clark, Koff's return couldn't have come at a better time. Fans and analysts alike see her return as a turning point. She's known for making bold moves, and with her experience, there's hope that Koff will breathe new life into a team that's been underperforming. But there's no doubt, the pressure is on. The Fever's recent struggles have put them near the bottom of the standings, and many wonder if even Koff's expertise will be enough to rebuild the franchise. Will she be able to replicate her past success, or is the situation too far gone? It's impossible to talk about the Indiana Fever without mentioning Caitlin Clark. Since being drafted, Clark has quickly established herself as one of the league's most electrifying players. Her deep three-pointers, sharp court vision, and ability to make impossible plays have captured the attention of fans across the league. Clark has single-handedly brought the Fever into the spotlight, drawing in record-breaking attendance numbers and skyrocketing media attention. Clark isn't just a great player, she's a cultural phenomenon. Fans are showing up in droves, and the Fever are starting to see a fan base that hasn't been this engaged in years. It's not just about what Clark does on the court, it's her presence off the court that's been a game changer for the Fever. Merchandise sales are up, media interviews are flooding in, and suddenly a team that was once an afterthought is now the center of attention. But as impressive as Clark has been, the Fever's struggles raise concerns. Despite her star power, the team is still far from competing for a championship. This leads us to the next major issue, coaching. No discussion about the Fever's season would be complete without addressing the elephant in the room, head coach Christy Sides. While Sides was expected to bring a fresh perspective to the team, her tenure has been plagued by defensive struggles and questionable rotation management. Critics argue that Sides has failed to adjust her defensive strategies to match the talent on the roster, and as a result, the Fever have often been outplayed on that end of the floor. The lack of defensive intensity has been one of the team's biggest weaknesses, and much of that blame has fallen on Sides. There are growing concerns about whether she's the right coach to lead this team, especially with a generational talent like Caitlin Clark on the roster. Clark has been forced to carry a heavy load on both ends of the floor, often overworked in games where she should be getting more support from her teammates. Sides' inability to manage rotations effectively has further raised questions about her future. Players like Kelsey Mitchell, who should be taking pressure off Clark, have been inconsistent in their minutes and roles. If Sides can't figure out a way to balance the workload and improve the team's defensive schemes, her future with the Fever could be in jeopardy. With Clark's immediate impact, the Fever are feeling the pressure to build a competitive team around her, and fast. It's clear that Clark has the potential to lead this team to a championship, but she can't do it alone. The Fever's front office, now led by Kelly Koff, has its work cut out for them. The current roster needs major improvements, especially on the defensive end, if the team is going to contend for a title. The focus is not just on finding talent, but on building a roster that maximizes Clark's strengths. She's a dynamic scorer and playmaker, but without the right pieces around her, the Fever will continue to struggle. The team's defensive shortcomings have been well documented, and finding players who can step up on that end will be crucial. But it's not just about defense. The Fever need players who can take the load off Clark offensively as well. There's a growing sense that time is ticking. Clark is a franchise-altering player, and the Fever can't afford to waste her prime years. The pressure is on the front office to make the right moves, whether that's through trades, free agency, or the draft. If they don't, they risk losing the momentum Clark has brought to the franchise. One of the biggest challenges facing the Fever is the uncertainty around key players like Kelsey Mitchell. Mitchell has been a vital part of the team's offense, but she's approaching free agency, and there are questions about whether the Fever can retain her. Losing Mitchell would be a significant blow, especially given the need to build a competitive roster around Clark. But it's not just Mitchell. The Fever's future hinges on whether they can develop a balanced roster that complements Clark's skill set. Players like Aaliyah Boston and Alyssa Smith have shown flashes of potential, but consistency has been an issue. The team needs to figure out which pieces will be part of their long-term plans and which ones need to be replaced. As Mitchell's free agency approaches, the Fever are facing a critical offseason. Can they convince her to stay? Or will the team be forced to rebuild around Clark without one of their top offensive weapons? It's a decision that could have lasting consequences for the franchise. The future of the Indiana Fever is hanging in the balance. Will Kelly Koff's return be enough to turn things around? Can the team build a championship roster around Caitlin Clark? The answers to these questions could make or break the Fever's chances of rising to the top of the WNBA. Only time will tell if this is the beginning of a new era for the Fever, or just another missed opportunity.
It's going to be nice, though, I think, getting out of the spotlight and just getting to live my life and do things that I want to do and, not have to sit and I love talking to all of you, but it's going to be nice to not have to sit in front of a microphone, multiple times a week. I really appreciate all of you, but it will be nice to kind of get away and relax for a little bit. And I appreciate everything you all do as well, so I thank you.
You got me down again.
Caitlin Clark's potential departure from the WNBA to play in Europe has shocked fans and analysts alike. While her frustration with the league's physicality and officiating has been well documented, a deeper factor may be at play: the rising racial tensions within the league, specifically tied to Alyssa Thomas's recent accusations. Could this racial controversy be the final push for Clark to explore opportunities overseas? Clark's rookie season was undeniably electric, with her breaking records, lifting the Indiana Fever out of irrelevance, and propelling the WNBA into the spotlight. However, this meteoric rise came at a cost. From facing brutal physical defense to controversial no-calls, like Dijanai Carrington's infamous eye poke, Clark has felt unprotected by the league's officiating. "I feel like I'm getting hammered, and opponents get away with things that other players don't," she said in an interview after the Fever's heartbreaking playoff exit.
Yeah, I think just being competitive is who I am. It's what I've done my whole career. I think at times there's ways I can probably channel it a little bit better, but that's just basketball at the end of the day. That's never gonna change. I'm never gonna lose that. I feel like I'm getting hammered. I don't know. I appreciate Christy getting the tech too.
While the physical toll alone was draining, it's becoming evident that the environment in the WNBA, beyond the court, has been a growing source of frustration for Clark. And nothing exemplifies this more than the recent racial controversy stirred by Alyssa Thomas. After the Fever's playoff elimination, Alyssa Thomas took the stage not to discuss her team's win, but to accuse Caitlin Clark's fan base of racism. Thomas claimed that in her 11-year career, she had never experienced such vitriol, implying that Clark's sudden rise to stardom is somehow tied to racial bias.
Honestly, it's been a lot of nonsense. I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it. And
Thomas stated, indirectly linking Clark's popularity to her predominantly white fan base. This wasn't just a comment on trolls or online hate. It was an accusation that essentially targeted the league's new fan base, many of whom had started watching because of Clark's presence. Thomas painted a picture that Clark's success and the attention she received were products of race rather than talent. For Clark, this must have felt like the ultimate slap in the face. After working tirelessly to prove herself on the court, She now found herself at the center of a racial debate she never asked for. It's not difficult to see how this racial narrative, combined with the physical play she's endured, may have been the final straw for Clark. While she's been the face of the WNBA's growth, she's also become its most controversial figure, largely due to factors beyond her control. From Alyssa Thomas's public accusations to other players using racial tensions to stir controversy, Clark is caught in a political and racial firestorm that could be pushing her to leave the league altogether. In her press conference, Clark didn't directly address the racial allegations, but she made it clear she's had enough. "I need a reset. I need to get away from all of this," she said. Many speculate that this reset could involve a move to Europe, where she could focus on her game without the external pressures that have consumed her WNBA experience.
Basketball was something I absolutely loved to do, but there was a lot of other things I had to have done in my life, whether it was school, whether it was, emptying the dishwasher or taking out the trash. I had chores, it stunk. I think it'll definitely be a little bit of an adjustment period for myself, not really, having to do that so much. I woke up yesterday and I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna really do. So it's gonna be nice though. I think getting out of the spotlight and just getting to live my life and do things that I wanna do and, not have to sit and I love talking to all of you, but it's gonna be nice to not have to sit in front of a microphone.
Europe could offer Clark the chance to play in a league with a different focus and potentially a more balanced environment, free from the racial tensions that have started to define her WNBA journey. Clark's possible move to Europe isn't just a personal decision, it's a potential disaster for the WNBA. Since joining the league, Clark has transformed the Fever into a money-making machine. Attendance for Indiana games skyrocketed by 400%, ticket sales surged by 60%, and her jersey became the top seller in league history. Her games drew millions of viewers, eclipsing even matchups featuring other WNBA stars like Breanna Stewart and A'ja Wilson. Clark wasn't just a player, she was the league's main attraction. Losing her would be a financial and public relations nightmare for the WNBA. With Clark considering an exit, the league is staring down the barrel of losing its biggest draw and, potentially, its new fan base. But beyond the economic impact, Clark's departure would expose the deep issues that have been festering within the WNBA. Race, politics, and the struggle for equality within a league that has long prided itself on inclusivity. Clark leaving the WNBA would be a signal that the league isn't ready to protect and nurture its top talent. It could also set a dangerous precedent for other players who feel unsupported or unfairly targeted. If the WNBA can't resolve the tension brewing within its ranks, more players may begin to look elsewhere. But for now, all eyes are on Clark. Will she pack her bags and head to Europe? If she does, it won't just be a career shift. It will be a turning point for the WNBA. What do you think? Is Caitlin Clark justified in considering a move to Europe? Let me know in the comments below.
Those guys, they're the racists when really y'all are the racists.
You got me down again.
In the wake of Caitlin Clark's playoff exit, a new scandal is shaking up the WNBA. Alyssa Thomas has been suspended following accusations of a racially motivated assault on Clark during a heated playoff game. This incident has sparked widespread debate, not only over player safety, but also over deeper issues of race within the league. Thomas claims that racial abuse from Clark's fan base has contributed to the ongoing tension, but her actions during the game are raising even more eyebrows. Let's dive into the story. In a pivotal playoff matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun, emotions were already running high. Clark, fresh off a historic rookie season, was looking to cement her place as one of the WNBA's biggest stars. Meanwhile, Alyssa Thomas, a veteran of the league, was eager to lead the Sun to victory. What should have been a competitive, hard-fought game turned controversial in an instant when a physical altercation broke out. During the game, Thomas was accused of a deliberate and aggressive move toward Clark, which many labeled as a racist assault. The action resulted in an immediate uproar among fans and analysts alike. The Fever were eliminated from the playoffs, but the real story emerging from the game was the alleged racial undertone of Thomas's actions. As details emerged, WNBA officials moved quickly, suspending Alyssa Thomas. The decision was met with mixed reactions from the public. Some praised the WNBA for taking a strong stand against any behavior that could be construed as racially motivated. Others questioned the severity of the punishment, suggesting it was a hasty decision made under public pressure without full evidence. What makes this story even more complicated is that Thomas didn't just face punishment on the court. During the post-game interview, Thomas did not shy away from addressing the issue. Instead of expressing regret or reflecting on her performance, she shifted the focus to the treatment she received from fans. According to Thomas, she had been subjected to racial abuse throughout the series, particularly from Clark's fan base, which she accused of being racist.
It's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it. And we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media, and there's no place for it. You know, we come to play basketball for our job and it's fun, but we don't want to go to work every day and have social media blown up over things like that. It's uncalled for, and something needs to be done, whether it's, you know, them checking their fans or this league checking. There's no time for it anymore.
Thomas's comments lit a firestorm in the media. In her post-game interview, she claimed that throughout her 11-year career, she had never experienced such racially charged abuse until this season. She directly pointed the finger at Clark's supporters, alleging that their admiration for the star player was laced with racial biases.
I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base.
Her words sparked a larger conversation about race and fandom in the WNBA. Fans and analysts alike were left wondering, is there a deeper racial tension brewing in the WNBA? Or was this simply a desperate deflection from a player trying to shift attention away from her playoff performance? This isn't the first time that Clark and Thomas have been at odds. Earlier in the season, during a regular season matchup, tensions boiled over between the two when Thomas set a hard screen that sent Clark to the floor. Though Thomas was penalized for the play, the incident added fuel to an already simmering rivalry. Clark, however, has largely stayed out of the fray. She has not responded directly to Thomas's claims or engaged in the controversy surrounding their previous encounters. Instead, she has focused on her game, letting her historic rookie season speak for itself. This has only further endeared her to her growing fan base, which includes a mix of traditional WNBA fans and newcomers drawn to her record-breaking performances. One of the most intriguing aspects of this story is the media's role in shaping public perception. Some sports pundits have accused the media of fanning the flames by amplifying Thomas's accusations without sufficient evidence.
Instagram and Twitter, these are choices we make. There's an easy way. The league doesn't have to get involved. The Indiana Fever don't have to do something to get you away from social media. Put your phone down. Don't download the apps. Don't engage.
Others argue that these conversations are long overdue, as they bring to light the challenges that Black athletes continue to face in a predominantly white-dominated fan culture. Critics of the media's handling of the situation point out that while Clark has received overwhelming praise and attention for her on-court accomplishments, there has been relatively little coverage of how race factors into her rising stardom.
Caitlin Clark is Kunta Clark. She's the actual slave that everybody else is exploiting for their benefit. Angel Reese included at the top of that list. Now Alyssa Thomas jumps in and says, let me get my piece.
This has led to further conversations about whether the WNBA, and by extension, its media partners, are doing enough to address the racial dynamics at play within the league. The suspension of Alyssa Thomas and the racial allegations have put the WNBA in a difficult position. The league must now address multiple issues: the integrity of the game, the safety of its players, and the deeper racial tensions that have been brought to the surface. With Clark out of the playoffs and Thomas suspended, the WNBA will need to navigate the fallout carefully to avoid alienating fans on either side of the debate. Moving forward, the league may need to reassess how it handles these types of incidents. Are suspensions enough, or should there be further investigations into the broader claims of racial abuse made by Thomas? And how can the WNBA foster a more inclusive environment for all its players and fans? While this story is still unfolding, it's clear that the rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas has become symbolic of larger issues within the WNBA. Their on-court clashes and off-court drama have exposed divisions within the fan base and raised questions about how race, gender, and power dynamics intersect in women's professional sports. Clark's rookie season may have ended on a sour note with the Fever's playoff exit, but her legacy is far from complete. As for Alyssa Thomas, her future in the league remains uncertain. Will she be able to recover from this scandal, or will this suspension mark a turning point in her career? Regardless of what happens next, the impact of this incident will be felt for years to come. Both Clark and Thomas are incredibly talented athletes who have helped to raise the profile of the WNBA. But as this situation proves, talent alone is not enough to navigate the complexities of fame, race, and public perception in today's world. The suspension of Alyssa Thomas for a racially charged altercation with Caitlin Clark is more than just a sports story. It's a cultural moment. It highlights the racial dynamics at play within the WNBA and forces fans and players alike to confront uncomfortable truths about fandom, privilege, and representation in women's sports. As the WNBA grapples with these issues, one thing is clear: this controversy is far from over. In the end, both Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas will continue to play key roles in shaping the future of the WNBA. How the league handles their rivalry and the underlying tensions will be a defining moment not only for women's basketball, but for sports as a whole.